What if everything you thought you knew about World War II was a lie? In the final days of the Nazi regime, whispers of a secret launch, far beyond Earth, surfaced and then vanished. But what if those whispers were true? What if, beneath the ruins, they built something, not of this world? A base, on the moon, hidden in silence, buried in shadow, and still, possibly active. This is the disturbing secret they never wanted you to uncover. The idea was born in a smoke-filled room beneath Whitehall, in the earliest months of 1943. MI6 had long flirted with psychological warfare, but Operation Mirrorman was unprecedented, bordering on lunacy, to train and insert a body double of Adolf Hitler into the Nazi inner circle. Not to assassinate him, not to sabotage, but to become him, slowly issuing contradicting orders, altering strategic objectives, sowing confusion from within. The man chosen for the mission was not a soldier, nor a spy. His name was Dieter Vogel, a failed German actor turned political exile living under British protection. Vogel bore a terrifying resemblance to Hitler, same height, facial structure, even the eerie intensity of the eyes. When placed in uniform, trimmed mustache applied, and vocal patterns drilled, even seasoned intelligence officers admitted they sometimes forgot he wasn't the real Führer. Over 6 months, Vogel was trained by the best linguists, psychologists, and mimicry experts the British had. He was coached on Hitler's mannerisms, diet, private obsessions, even how he paced during speeches. MI6 brought in captured members of Hitler's staff to test Vogel under duress. Most couldn't tell the difference. One panicked and tried to salute. Meanwhile, British agents in Germany worked to identify an opportunity, an isolated moment where the real Hitler could be swapped without immediate detection. That opportunity came in February 1944, during a planned train journey from the Berghof to Berlin. An orchestrated railway sabotage forced a detour to a secluded estate in Bavaria where, for precisely 9 hours, Hitler was off-grid. At 2:18 a.m., under cover of an Allied bombing distraction, a sleeper team infiltrated the estate. The real Hitler was sedated and removed via underground tunnel. In his place, Vogel emerged into history. The operation's success hinged on 2 things: tight control of Hitler's inner circle, and Vogel's absolute immersion. Remarkably, the first weeks passed without incident. Vogel began subtly changing minor policies, allowing some Jewish prisoners to be reallocated for labor instead of execution, postponing ill-advised offensives, and delegitimizing Heinrich Himmler in private meetings. He claimed visions from ancient Germanic spirits, suggesting a time for peace may be closer than we think. The SS grew nervous. Albert Speer, Hitler's trusted architect and armaments minister, was the first to notice inconsistencies. "You don't remember asking me to increase panzer production by 30%, he asked during one tense breakfast. Vogel deflected, claiming fatigue, but the seeds of doubt were sown. Soon, Goebbels too sensed something was off. The voice was perfect. The temper, eerily identical. But the man behind the eyes, he seemed less cruel. Still, Vogel's alterations began to ripple outward. Orders were delayed. Entire offensives in the east were scrapped. The Western Front saw unexpected troop withdrawals. Resistance networks in France began to notice lighter patrols. The Allies, perplexed, assumed German leadership was fracturing. But nothing lasts in secret. On April 11, 1944, Himmler organized an unsanctioned medical inspection of the Führer after Vogel refused to execute a group of Czech partisans. Blood work revealed anomalies. Vogel had O-negative blood. Hitler's was AB. Himmler flew into a rage, demanding immediate detainment. But Vogel was ready. He locked down the Berghof compound, activated explosives planted weeks prior by MI6, and escaped under the guise of a spiritual retreat. A decoy convoy lured SS interceptors into the Alps. For 48 hours, the German command was paralyzed, each faction believing the other had orchestrated a coup. Eventually, Hitler was recovered alive, heavily drugged, and raging with incoherent fury. The regime scrambled to erase the embarrassment. Publicly, Nothing happened. Privately, dozens of officers were executed. Vogel, however, had vanished. Rumors placed him in Sweden. Others claimed he had plastic surgery and settled in Argentina under a new name. In 1962, a file was unearthed from MI6 archives, a photograph dated 1957 of an older man, still Hitler's mirror image, feeding pigeons near the Seine. The photo was stamped, "Retired. Do not contact." Though the war continued for another year, historians now argue Operation Mirror Man shaved months off the conflict. Chaos in the Nazi chain of command, contradictory orders, and strange behavior from the Führer led to major operational failures, especially during the Battle of Normandy. The truth remained hidden for decades. And yet, in a locked museum drawer in London, there is still a cigarette case, engraved with the words, "To the man who fooled a monster." They called it Project Götterdämmerung, Twilight of the Gods. Buried beneath the snow-covered mountains of Austria, inside an abandoned salt mine near the village of Altassee, Nazi scientists worked feverishly on the ultimate weapon, the atomic bomb. The Americans had the Manhattan Project. The Germans, in a desperate counter, launched their own race against time. Led by Dr. Kurt Wexler, a physicist exiled from the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute for his radical theories, the Nazi nuclear division operated in utmost secrecy, even from high-ranking members of the party. Hitler himself was never fully convinced of atomic science. But Heinrich Himmler saw promise, especially when reports filtered in about Allied breakthroughs. By early 1945, under cover of collapsing front lines and panicked retreats, Wexler's team completed two crude but functional atomic devices. Unlike the American bomb, these weren't designed for aircraft. These were short-range, land-deployable prototypes, compact, volatile, and dangerously unstable. They were never meant to be transported far. Yet, just weeks before Germany's surrender, Himmler ordered the bombs moved out of Austria. The reason was never recorded. Some say he feared Allied discovery. Others claim he intended to use the weapons as leverage with the Soviets. Either way, the bombs were loaded onto a convoy of military trucks under cover of darkness and driven south toward the Italian border. They never arrived. Officially, the convoy was said to have been destroyed in an avalanche near the Passo di Regia. But survivors, civilians in a nearby hamlet, reported no such event. What they did hear, however, was strange. A loud humming, flashes of white light in the forest, and a piercing whine like a star collapsing. The next morning, the road was scorched and abandoned. No trucks. No bodies. No trace. The weapons were gone. For decades, Allied intelligence dismissed the story as another post-war ghost tale. But in 1968, a declassified CIA memo surfaced. Aerial reconnaissance near the Austrian-Italian border had picked up irregular heat signatures, geothermal disruptions consistent with buried plutonium decay. The memo was buried again after scientists dispatched to the area returned empty-handed. Still, the whispers continued. In the 1980s, an expedition led by former East German geologist Klaus Reiter claimed to have found fragments of bomb casing deep within an ice cave near the town of Nauders. The metal bore Nazi eagle engravings and strange serial numbers. Reiter's findings were discredited by Western scientists until he vanished during a second trip into the mountains. His last radio transmission, "We found it. It's real. The readings are." Silence. Modern technology has only fueled speculation. In 2009, hikers discovered an underground chamber sealed behind a rockfall. Inside, rusted barrels with radiation warning signs in archaic German, and a journal wrapped in oilskin. The journal, believed to belong to Dr. Wexler, described a final trial and the curse of decay. Pages hinted at the bomb's instability, warning that to awaken the God bomb is to awaken death itself. International teams rushed to investigate. Yet by the time authorities arrived, the chamber was empty. No journal. No barrels. Only faint residual radiation, and a fresh layer of footprints in the snow. Now, in the present day, satellite scans have identified a rectangular anomaly beneath the soil near the old convoy route. A cold zone, deeper than the surrounding terrain, almost perfectly shielded from aerial detection. Some believe it's a natural formation. Others believe it's a buried chamber, or a vault. Some even whisper that one bomb was found by locals decades ago, hidden in a barn and traded to an unknown buyer on the black market. Others say the weapons are waiting, dormant, buried in the earth like seeds of vengeance. If true, it means two fully operational nuclear devices, designed in desperation, built in darkness, remain somewhere in the Alps. Waiting. Forgotten. Or perhaps not. At an international security summit in Geneva, a leaked report suggested that a spike in radioactive isotopes matching German World War II-era uranium had been detected in Iran. Officials denied the claim. But behind closed doors, eyes turned once again toward the mountains. Toward the ghosts of Project Götterdämmerung. In the final weeks of World War II, as Berlin burned and the Reich collapsed under Allied fire, a select group of German engineers, scientists, and SS officers vanished without a trace. They didn't escape to Argentina or burrow into underground bunkers. According to a series of recently declassified Soviet files and obscure Nazi documents, they had a far more extraordinary destination: the moon. It sounds absurd. But deep in the Harz Mountains, beneath a facility once known as Mittelwerk, Nazi Germany had already mastered early rocket technology with the infamous V-2. While the Allies focused on Europe, a breakaway faction within the SS, known only by the codename Valhalla, had been funneling resources into a radical project to escape Earth entirely. Operation Selene was born in late 1943, under the command of SS General Hans Kammler, a shadowy figure with a penchant for disappearing files and dead witnesses. Kammler diverted thousands of concentration camp prisoners to construct a subterranean launch facility. But this wasn't for any known rocket type. These silos were vertical hangars, with shafts extending miles underground. Their purpose: to test the Vril 9, an unconfirmed, disc-shaped propulsion craft rumored to utilize experimental zero-point energy, derived from classified Tesla notes and a mysterious device the Nazis called the Black Sun engine. In 1945, Allied intelligence brushed off these ideas as mysticism. But Soviet scouts arriving at Mittelwerk after the war found something strange: half-buried schematics of lunar orbits, cryogenic life support systems, and a single fragment of a spacecraft hull made of an unknown titanium alloy, nearly impervious to heat. Stalin reportedly ordered the creation of a special team, Unit Rusalka, to track any remnants of the program. They never found the launch shaft, only a sealed tunnel marked with symbols from the Ahnenerbe, the Nazis' esoteric science division. The strangest clue came in 1952, when an American radar operator stationed in Greenland picked up a non-ballistic object entering Earth's orbit. It wasn't a Soviet satellite, they hadn't launched one yet. NORAD registered the anomaly as a slow-rotating metallic object, roughly 30 meters across, before it vanished behind the moon. At the time, it was dismissed as noise. But then came the Apollo missions. In a private transmission during Apollo 17's descent, Commander Eugene Cernan reportedly whispered, "There's something here. Looks man-made. Not ours." The clip was scrubbed from the final broadcast, but leaked transcripts contain chilling descriptions of geometric indentations and sharp metallic structures in the moon's southern region. In 2001, a leaked photo archive from a retired NASA engineer showed what appeared to be a hexagonal base nestled within a shadowed lunar crater. Analysts claimed it was a visual artifact. Conspiracy theorists, however, pointed to the markings visible on the structure's surface: a faded eagle clutching a swastika. More recently, in 2014, a Chinese lunar orbiter mapped a cluster of thermal hotspots, tiny but consistent, in a zone where no solar heating should occur. The region is geologically dead. Yet the signatures persisted for days. Heat doesn't lie. One theory holds that a select few Nazi scientists successfully launched a crew of 6 men in a one-way mission to the moon using a primitive fusion propulsion system. Without the technology for return, their mission wasn't conquest, it was legacy. A lunar colony, a last vestige of the Aryan dream, frozen in time beneath lunar dust. But here's the most disturbing part. In 2020, a German physicist named Dr. Lena Voigt, working with private aerospace firm Astronova, revealed a gravity anomaly on the moon, beneath the southern pole. While examining subsurface scans, she discovered a symmetrical cavity nearly 300 meters wide, located exactly where the Vril 9 orbital maps had predicted. Shortly after announcing her findings, Voigt died in a suspicious lab explosion. Her research was seized by national security. Whistleblowers claim Voigt had cracked a truth hidden for 75 years. The moon base is real, and it's not abandoned. Some believe the descendants of the original crew survived in hibernation, waking in intervals to maintain the structure. Others think they died long ago, but not before sending messages home. In 1989, a ham radio operator in southern Brazil received an encrypted broadcast in pre-war German, referencing Luna Zentrale, and the phrase, Reich, let him shatten. The Reich lives in the shadows. NASA denies the existence of any such signals. But they've recently adjusted flight paths to avoid that part of the moon. Is it just caution? Or is someone still up there? In March of 1943, the German Kriegsmarine dispatched a convoy of 12 Type IXC U-boats under a single codename, Wolfschatten, or Shadow Wolf. Their mission was simple: penetrate the Atlantic shipping lanes, disrupt Allied supply chains, and vanish beneath the waves before detection. They were outfitted with the latest radar jamming tech, stealth-painted hulls, and an unorthodox experimental navigation system developed by the Reich's most enigmatic physicist, Dr. Gerhard Weissmann. What made Wolfschatten different wasn't the number of submarines, or their mission. It was where they were ordered to go. Coordinates recovered from declassified Allied intercepts placed their course not toward Britain, but southwest, deep into the uncharted heart of the Atlantic Ocean. According to an intercepted communique from Admiral Donitz himself, the fleet was instructed to disappear from the world stage and await reactivation. No further explanation was provided. They never returned. Naval Command chalked it up to a catastrophic mission failure, perhaps sunk en masse by Allied patrols or consumed by a freak storm. Yet no debris, oil slicks, or mayday signals were ever recorded. They simply vanished. The incident was buried beneath layers of bureaucratic silence. Until 1971. A U.S. Navy research vessel, USNS Elysium, scanning for deep-sea seismic activity, detected faint sonar echoes of metallic structures, 12 of them, spaced evenly in a circular pattern over 300 miles wide. Each anomaly sat at a depth of over 4,000 meters, and their arrangement seemed intentional. The Navy, citing national security, immediately restricted access to the area. But curiosity persisted. In 1982, a rogue oceanographer named Dr. Elena Moravec launched a covert expedition using a privately funded submersible. Her footage, smuggled out on film reels, showed something impossible: a submarine, upright on the ocean floor, intact, its hull unblemished by corrosion, as if it had been submerged only hours earlier. The conning tower bore a Nazi insignia still clearly visible. As the submersible approached, all instruments failed. Compass needles spun wildly. Internal lights dimmed. A low-frequency hum vibrated through the water. Moravec aborted the mission. Her final log entry was haunting: "They're not dead. They're waiting." Within months, her vessel was seized by NATO forces and her team disbanded. Moravec herself disappeared en route to a conference in Oslo. No official investigation followed. The legend of the Ghost Armada exploded into conspiracy circles. Some claimed the U-boats were caught in a temporal rift, victims of Weissmann's experimental navigational device, rumored to be based on early quantum theory and magnetic field manipulation. Others whispered about the Black Current, a mysterious underwater vortex hidden in the Bermuda Triangle, capable of folding reality itself. Then came the signals. Beginning in 1998, deep-sea listening stations picked up strange bursts of Morse code in Old German naval format. The codes repeated phrases like, "awaiting orders," and "Wolfschatten still hunts." Even stranger, the signals showed Doppler shifts indicating motion, but always beneath depths humans couldn't survive. In 2006, a commercial shipping vessel, MV Halloran, passed near the restricted sonar zone and reported a near collision with an object that surfaced without warning. The crew described a gray tower, trailing water, with flickering lights, then a deafening, metallic groan as it submerged again. the military denied involvement. More recently, satellite thermal imagery caught a flash, brief, precise, of heat rising from beneath the waves in the same location. It lasted just 6 seconds. Enough time for one hypothesis to take root. The U-boats surfaced. Briefly. Intentionally. But why now? A controversial theory claims that within each U-boat was a sealed vault containing Reich contingency artifacts, weapons, gold, or worse, orders that would only activate once the Reich fell. With modern technology unable to explain the preservation of the crafts, some researchers believe these submarines exist in an altered state of time itself, caught in a loop, waking only when triggered. By what? No one knows. One terrifying clue emerged from a recovered German war diary found in Argentina. In its final pages, a line reads, "The ocean remembers. We do not hide. We sleep beneath the skin of the world. The shadow wolf is eternal." In 2023, a team of AI sonar analysts working with the University of Lisbon noted that the anomalies beneath the Atlantic had shifted position by nearly 14 meters. Some say tectonic movement. Others believe something far older and far more patient is stirring beneath the sea. In the damp, candlelit cellar of an abandoned farmhouse in Normandy, a British intelligence officer named Lieutenant Harold Crane discovered something that should not have existed. It was June 1944, days after the D-Day landings. The item in question, a sealed metal box embedded in concrete beneath the floorboards. Inside, he found a digital tablet. Not a notepad. A digital tablet, black, glass-screened, cold to the touch. No wires. No battery compartment. On the back, one word was etched in worn lettering, Samsung. The screen flickered as he picked it up, revealing maps, photographs, and an interface unlike anything known to Allied command. Maps showing troop movements, weather forecasts, and political borders, not from the present, but from the future. One document showed a satellite photo of Earth dated August 1991. Another was labeled 9/11 timeline. The device powered down after 3 minutes. They never got it to work again. Crane never spoke publicly of what he found. The object was seized by MI6 and buried in a vault in Bletchley Park. But the implications rattled every chain of command it passed through. Who sent this? How did it get here? More importantly, why? Within weeks, whispers began surfacing across both Allied and Axis lines. Strange materials, unfamiliar artifacts, even letters appearing inside command tents overnight, typed on unknown machines and written in perfect German or English. The contents were eerily precise. Detailed forecasts of upcoming battles, lists of names that would die on specific days, suggestions to change tactics or avoid certain ambush points. It was as if someone or something was trying to change the war from the outside. American General George Patton received a manila envelope on July 7, 1944, dropped anonymously in his field headquarters. Inside, an aerial photo of Hiroshima, with a mushroom cloud rising above it. Attached, a note, "End of the Axis. But not the war. Choose carefully." Patton was shaken. He refused to speak of it again. On the Axis side, similar stories emerged. Nazi officer Erich Falkenhorst, stationed near Warsaw, reported discovering a letter in his coat pocket that hadn't been there hours earlier. It listed German defeats, each one accurate to the day and location, up to September 1945. At the bottom, a single phrase in Latin, "Fiat voluntas tua." Let thy will be done. Falkenhorst defected within the week. In the Soviet camp, documents written in Russian but using post-Cyrillic typography were found on a dead officer outside Leningrad. One of them referenced an AI defensive network built after the Cold War. This would have made no sense unless time was folding in on itself. The phenomenon became known internally as the Time Capsule War. By late 1944, both Allied and Axis forces began compiling lists of anomalies. Among them, a perfectly preserved 2003 penny found embedded in a Nazi officer's boot. A weatherproof zippered jacket made of nylon decades before its invention. A small journal with the title World War III, A Soldier's Story, containing names and photos of men who hadn't been born yet. A cassette tape labeled The Fall of Berlin podcast. As the chaos grew, so did the paranoia. Was this sabotage from the future? Or divine intervention? Had humanity discovered a way to send warnings backward through time? Theories ranged from the wild to the apocalyptic. A time travel experiment gone wrong in the 21st century? A future AI attempting to rewrite history? Some believed a splinter faction of post-war humanity was trying to unmake the very war that had defined them. Others thought the war had never ended, that it was still being fought across timelines. By March 1945, both Allied and Axis intelligence had established secret time artifact divisions, collecting every anomaly, building underground facilities to house them, and beginning experiments of their own. The most terrifying breakthrough came from the Nazi side. In a hidden facility outside Munich, an SS scientist named Otto Kaltenbrunner claimed to reverse engineer a future hard drive. The result, a device capable of producing one consistent signal, repeating coordinates in modern-day Berlin. The device stopped transmitting on May 8, 1945, the exact day Germany surrendered. The war ended, but not the mystery. Decades later, in 1997, a maintenance crew repairing old wiring in London's Down Street bunker discovered a sealed locker marked T-77. Inside, the same tablet Lieutenant Harold Crane had found, now accompanied by 5 additional devices. Each had powered on briefly in the 1970s. Each had maps of future wars: Vietnam, the Gulf, Afghanistan, even conflicts labeled Mars colonization, 2109. At the bottom of the locker was a note, written in Crane's own hand. "We never stopped the war. We just paused it long enough to lose control of the outcome. If this is found, tell them, history is bleeding into itself. And it's getting faster." A postscript, in typewriter ink. Time always wins. They buried the truth beneath ice, stone, and silence. But some secrets refused to stay dead. What if this wasn't just a story? What if remnants still remain, ticking in the dark, waiting? Every document burned, every witness silenced, only makes the question louder. What else did they build, and where is it now? Because once you open the door to forbidden history, you may never close it again. And something might be waiting on the other side.